You. So we go to the last presentation. Dr. Jensson from Environment Agency of Iceland.
Forseti Icelands, ambassadors, distinguished guests. My talk will be about monitoring of pollutants. What I will try to do to show what we have been doing last 2 decades in monitoring pollutants in the marine environment in Iceland. I will start with some introduction to say you how we started all this exercise. Then I will present some measurements and make some concluding remarks. Actually, regular monitoring didn't start until the 1990s in the marine environment in Iceland. Although a lot of research has been going on, but that was the time when we started regular monitoring. And the reason for that was mainly at that time Iceland has newly been part of the so-called OSPAR Convention, the protection of the Northeast Atlantic. And part of the obligatory requirements was to take part in a monitoring which could be compared, so we could compare the situation in the environment. So we started out with some main pollutants, like the POPs, which you shown up there, some heavy metals, but also in the beginning we needed to follow a lot of biological parameters. In the beginning we had a huge effort in collecting samples. The main reason for that, to collect so huge number of samples, was that, as everybody knows, in the nature, one fish does not represent the environment. You have lots of biological variation which you have to try to capture when you are going to interpret the result of the measurements. So this was what we started with: cod, dab, and blue mussels. The cod and the dab was selected to look at the environment outside the coastal area, when the blue mussels is for the coastal area. So today, these are the parameters which we are following. There are in the blue mussels and in cod. We have cut down the number of sampling stations and things like that based on the information gathered through the years. So today we have divided those stations into different types. Most of them are so-called baseline types. That means we are measuring pollutants there to try to get the general information about the status of the environment, not trying to detect a pollution source. The impact stations are placed with near industrial installations or things like that, in order to see whether they are having a real impact on the environment. And as you see, we have the aluminum factory and waste incineration, and in the old times landing of waste processing. So these are the stations, more or less, which we are monitoring today, unless we have cut down on the northwest of Iceland into one sampling station. And you see there also where the impact stations and baseline stations for the new mussels are located. So, I will show you some results. I have to tell you that it is just now, after 15 to 20 years, that we can start to do a real statistical evaluation of the data in order to see, is there a trend and what is the trend? So I'm just showing you, and there are some indications of trends, but they are not statistically evaluated, so I don't know whether it's true, but it's an indication which has to be evaluated. But what you see on these slides is two stations, side by side, one impact station and one baseline station, very near each other. And you do not really see any difference between. Maybe that arsen is a little bit higher in the baseline station than in the impact station, which tells us that at this date, which is, it is here, we are not seeing impact from the aluminium smelter at Xuelong on this part of pollutants. If you look at Hvalfjörður, it's really the same. There's no difference there either. And these are both baseline stations. This is in the northwest part of Iceland, and this is the Grímsey Island north of Iceland. And they are also the same pattern. Just showing that, in general, the situation in the maritime area regarding those pollutants is in relatively good status. Here is from the east part of Iceland. What was decided to do there to test in the head of the one fjord in the east of Iceland and follow it outside to the ocean in order to see whether there was a possible pollution. This was mainly because at old times there used to be a whale station in the fjord, and we would like to see whether it was or could have effect on the environment. But there is no clear difference between those three sites. We also look at some organochloric. This is a PCB, and this is sum of 3 PCB which is used to determine the concentration. And this is impact station, and here you can see indication of declining. But as I said, this has not been statistically evaluated. But this may be indication of that the agreement, the Stockholm Agreement of banning use of PCB is having effect in Iceland. The similar at the baseline station, but you see it's higher here. Other persistent organic pollutants are not so much difference between the two stations. Here is also this is from the northwest part of Iceland, and this is based with the site of the incineration station, which now has been closed. But you may see a little decline, but as I said, it's not proven. But the same seems to be the reason in Grímsey, out in the north of Iceland, also indicating that PCB seems to be going down. I just wanted to show this to you to emphasize the importance of being aware of biological variance in fishes and everything which you are doing in the sea. These are the average weight of the liver, and you see it's a huge range. So you have to be aware of that. And this is average fat of the liver, which also have influence on the concentration of the pollutant. This is just to remind us all that we are dealing with a very dynamic environment, and you have to have that in mind always when you are interpreting data. We have looked at some research in cod liver, and I have drawn here a linear trend, and this is still, I emphasize once more, this is not statistically evaluated. But if there is a trend, it is an indication that it is going down. I also want to show this, cadmium. This is a concentration in cod liver at a different location, northeast and northwest of Iceland. And there is an indication that cadmium in cod liver, northwest of Iceland, is significantly higher than in the northeast. We do not have any source of cadmium in the northwest of Iceland. So this then, if it is true, it has to be of natural origin. Here is the cadmium cod liver pulled from both sides, and it may be an indication if something is happening that is going on, but it's not proved or anything. First, I want to say you to that concentration of cadmium in cod liver in the pure Icelandic Ocean is of the same magnitude as in the North Sea. But we do not have any source of cadmium pollution. So our theory is that this has to do with the bedrock and the volcanic activity around Iceland. But we do not have the proof or know anything more about that. Mercury is another, and this is just to show you the difference between the two areas. And here there is no trend visible. Here you have the PCB in cod liver, and there is very similar between those areas. We have DTE, which is a metabolite of DDT, the known pesticides, and this is the concentration of HCB. And if you look at those linear trends of that, there are indications that PCB is going down, as well as DTE. This is not as certain. But as I said, this has to be evaluated more. Before I go to the concluding remarks, in the beginning, when we started this monitoring, we also looked at sediments, grab sediments, the concentration of different compounds in that around Iceland, both out on the shelf and also within the certain harbor areas. Out in the shelf, we didn't find any indication of pollution, or when we tried to measure at least the organic compounds, they were more or less under detection limit in that. So we have not monitored that. But we are always monitoring in harbors. When they dredge and want to jump into sea, they have to make analysis to be allowed to do that. Well, my concluding remarks are that the pollutants that are detected, everywhere. pointing out that although we are not producing or using or whatever it is, we find it. It is a long-range transport, so that is the need for the international cooperation to look at it. As I pointed out, the indication are that the pollutants are going down, but once more, it has to be tested statistically, and that work is being done as a doctoral thesis of, I think the girl is working at Mattis and using those results which I have seen there to try to or look at the statistical significance of that. Marine environment is under pressure from long-range transport, and that I think is, if we are not looking at the coastal area in Iceland, is the most important thing in this one for us. They also mentioned that the Arctic ecosystem is very vulnerable. Several species are on the edge of the distribution zone, so changes 214, you cannot really say that it is because of that cause or this cause. It may be a natural variation, and the existence of pollutants, pressure, or whatever may add to the amplitude of that variation. And you cannot look at pollution in the marine environment as an isolated part. You have to look at the biology, you have to look at the fisheries activities, you have to look at the climate or climate changes, and you have to look at the activities, fishing, tourism, whatever, in a holistic way. My last slide is that Mattis is coordinating those measurements, and here you have the names of the people there doing the reports on that. Marine Research Institute takes all the samples, and the analyses are either analyzed at Mattis or at the Department of the Pharmacology and Toxicology, and there Kristín Ólafsdóttir is the main responsible. Thank you.